All right, hello everybody. I'm State Senator John Cronin. Welcome back to episode 4 of Cronin's Corner. We've got a great guest here with us today, and I'm really excited to talk about workforce development. It's something I'm very passionate about, and in the region, there's just some really exciting things going on. So my guest today is Jeff Roberge, who's the Executive Director of the MassHire North Central Workforce Board. So Jeff, good to have you here today.
Senator, thank you so much for having me on the show today. It's fantastic.
Yeah, gonna have a lot of fun. Can you tell me how you kind of got to this work and the position you are now in your professional background?
Absolutely. So, my career is always centered around workforce development, always centered around helping people or connect the dots so people can build meaningful lives around employment. In my previous jobs, I originally came to the state and I worked for the Seven Hills Foundation. I ran all of their employment programs. Seven Hills Foundation is an organization that serves primarily folks with developmental disabilities, but they have tons and tons of different programs for the community. So I started my career there, focusing all our efforts on making sure that especially people with disabilities have access to employment programs, access to real work. From there, I transitioned to the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. MRC is the state agency, vocational rehabilitation agency, that again primarily provides services to individuals in our communities with varying disabilities. I started as the area director here at the Fitchburg office right over on Summer Street. Yep. And from there I transitioned to the West Regional Director. So there were 8 there. The way MRC is set up, they have different regions. So I was the West Regional Director covering the 8 field offices across the western part of the state. And then most recently, about 3 years ago, there was a position open for the Executive Director job here in North Central. And now I find myself as the Executive Director at the MassHire North Central Workforce Board, located at 100 Erdman Way. And the facility itself also houses the Career Center.
Gotcha.
So, yep.
So for people at home who aren't familiar with what MassHire is or what the North Central Workforce Board does, can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. First and foremost, it's a mouthful. Trying to get all those.
We need an acronym or something.
Getting all those words out. So
I don't think NCWB rolls off the tongue any easier, though. Yeah.
I know, exactly. So the Workforce Board itself, first and foremost, there's 16 workforce boards across the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Each workforce board covers a certain part of the Commonwealth. So the North Central region, we cover the 26 towns in North Central Massachusetts. And the Workforce Board's primary responsibility is to align all of the workforce, both federal and state workforce training dollars that come into the region. We work very closely with the employers in our region, and we work very closely with our job seekers and our training providers like Mount Wachusett Community College, Monty Tech, Quinsigamond Community College, Fitchburg State. And the goal of the workforce system, first and foremost, we develop what we call a regional workforce plan. That goes into the governor's state plan. And we look at all of the labor market information, all of the skills training gaps, feedback from employers, and we develop a regional blueprint. That blueprint identifies what we call priority industries. So we know in this region that our priority industries are manufacturing-related occupations, healthcare-related occupations, and transportation and logistics occupations. Certainly we pay very close attention to all of our labor market data for all of our employers in the region. But when we start talking about federal and state funding through workforce training grants that come into the region, we align that money with what are our critical needs here in the region. So that's in practice. We also oversee the operation of our local career centers. So the MassHire North Central Career Center, which is also located Erdman Way, the Career Center provides in-person as well as virtual job-related services. So and we oversee those operations. So we make sure that the money that comes in is being best utilized to serve the public. Someone who's interested in going to the Career Center.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, right? Sure. I'm an 18 or a 19-year-old kid, and I walk through your front door. I'm going to sit down with one of your counselors and talk about the scope of your programs. What's available to that young person?
First and foremost, someone comes into the Career Center and they can sign up to become what we call a member. It's a free service. All of the services that are provided at the Career Center are completely free to anybody in the community who is looking for some type of employment supports. And those services can range from just career counseling, talking about your work history, talking about your aptitudes, talking about what your interests are. taking part in, we can run a battery of different types of assessments for somebody who isn't really sure of what they want to do or what they may be good at, or the jobs they've had in the past as, say, a young person. How does that translate in, those skills?
What I'm going to do next.
What
right?
other occupations would align best with the skills that I have?
Yeah.
People can get access to resume development services. There's a variety of different workshops around interviewing skills, utilizing social media in an effective way, like things like LinkedIn, all of the newer technologies that are out there, how you can best promote yourself to employers. People that come in who may be interested in taking part in a training. So I want to come to the Career Center. I've had some work history. I'm really interested in advancing a career in manufacturing.
Yeah.
A career counselor can sit down and talk with you about those grant-funded programs that the board oversees, free training into a manufacturing career.
And those are unbelievable careers, right? It's not your mom and pop's manufacturing floor. I mean, we've got a ton of people here in the region that make six figures on the floor, and with the advanced manufacturing industry that we have.
And talking specifically about manufacturing, and you mentioned it exactly. So your mothers and fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers' manufacturing system is not what it is today. We really call it advanced manufacturing.
Right.
And most manufacturing is driven by technology. So a lot of those training programs, people are getting trained in the utilization of robotics, automation,
CAD programming.
CAD programs, CNC programmers, CNC operators, 3D, building things using the 3D machines, all of that type of opportunity for folks. And you're talking about not only a living wage, but a career advancement.
It's a pathway to the middle class.
It is a pathway to the middle class. And we have some incredible manufacturers in the region, biotech manufacturing, plastics manufacturing. So automotive manufacturing. I mean, there's a variety of opportunity for folks. All of our employers in the region are in a growth period, especially now. People are hiring left and right.
And desperate for a workforce.
Desperate for workers. So anybody seeking services at the Career Center have a ton of options. It could be, I just want to advance myself in my current job and I need help, resume development, or just career counseling. Or I'm looking for a specific type of training. In most cases, that training is being grant funded through workforce training funds, all of that type of thing.
So what about the other end of the pipeline, right? What are the relationships you have with the employers in the region? And if you're an employer sitting at home watching, what should they be coming to you to use the MassHire board for?
So, our primary function and the board itself, so we have 32 members on our current workforce board. A majority of the folks are employers in the region. Employers come to the workforce board for a couple of reasons. One, to connect directly to job seekers, because we can do that through the Career Center, and we have access to the unemployment system, so we can identify folks who are currently unemployed, who have enrolled in MassHire, have identified specific skill sets or previous work history, and we can look through that information and target those folks for hiring into manufacturing. We also speak with manufacturers about skills gap. My company is growing. We've introduced this new technology, or we're thinking about purchasing this type of machinery that's going to change the way we do things. But we need people who know how to operate that machinery.
And we need to grow that pipeline organically here.
Exactly.
In the region.
So Jeff, can you help us identify those folks? And this is the type of training we need. Jeff, can you speak to the Mount? Can you speak to Monty Tech? Can you speak to Fitchburg State? And can we get together to develop a specific training program for our career pipeline? So that's the work we do.
So, and I know two initiatives that I'm really passionate about, and I know we've had a number of conversations, and I'm advocating in the legislature for are one to sustain but expand innovation pathways. Can you talk about that model and how that started and what it looks like here in the region right now?
So another component of what the board pays particular attention to is our next generation of workforce, right? So we have to be extremely aligned with our local high schools. And we have relationships with our high schools who are also looking to look at that next generation of workforce. These potentially could be kids who aren't going on to four-year college, want to transition right into the workforce, and they work on a program called Innovation Pathways, where they are able to access through the board, through connection, through a funding mechanism at the state, to get access to new equipment, new training modules, curriculum, all of that sort of thing that they can bring into the high schools
Yeah.
through what we call innovation pathways, get access to that machinery, get access to that curriculum, train the next generation of workforce. And they're doing that because they've worked through the board to say, okay, what are our priority industries? If we're going to apply for innovation pathways funding, what type of machinery would best be utilized to get those folks trained and into these jobs?
Right.
So we do that with several schools in our region. Most recently, Gardner High School, Fitchburg High School have applied and received innovation pathways funding. I believe Quabbin as well has received some innovation pathways funding. So.
And it's not just about advanced manufacturing.
No,
either,
not at all.
I know one thing we were able to do in the Senate budget this year is get a $50,000 grant for Fitchburg High School to expand an environmental sciences program. And
The water testing program,
and
right?
it's going to be, the vision for that is a pipeline for students from Fitchburg to, go and work at part of the week at the water treatment plant. And there's so many opportunities. It's another, local place where we know there's an aging workforce.
Exactly.
We need to develop the pipeline. And I think, I give Principal Roach at Fitchburg High so much credit, but I'll never forget a conversation. He's a great guy.
Great guy.
But he said, hey, we graduate 300 kids from Fitchburg every year.
Right.
About 150 are going to go on to post-secondary education, whether that's at Mount Wachusett Community College or Harvard. And everywhere in between.
Wherever. Right.
But there's another 150 kids we are graduating and sending out into the world each year who are not going to have an opportunity or not going to pursue an associate's or a bachelor's. And I think where we're headed in the region and where we're going is that those 150 kids have access to some sort of workforce training. So you graduate, you get your degree from Fitchburg High School, but you've had an experience and been able to grow skills to enter the workforce and really a high-paying job. And there's so many opportunities for that locally.
And you bring up a great point. So it's not just about manufacturing. Healthcare-related training occupations, life sciences, all of those things are there's huge opportunity in all of those areas. We call it work-based learning.
Yeah.
So, when we sit down and we speak with our high schools, we really stress the notion of providing these young folks with a work-based learning model on top of their regular school curriculum. So you're getting real-life exposure to jobs that are in your community. You're getting real-life hands-on training. You have teachers who are provided the information necessary, and they, sometimes during the summer, we fund pilot programs to send teachers out into externships into our employers to actually learn. They can bring that information back to the school and have a very clear understanding of what our industries need here in the region and provide that information to students.
So that's one program, Innovation Pathways. And I am really proud in the Senate budget, I sponsored an amendment that was actually, that program was funded through private grants for the past 3 or 4 years. But this year we passed an amendment in the Senate budget to fund it at $1.5 million for the next fiscal year. And we're really hoping that that predictability allows superintendents and principals to apply for these programs and to sustain the model. But with the additional funding that we secured in the Senate budget, I'm praying every night that it sticks in conference committee with the House and Senate. But we're going to have the ability to start 15 new programs across the state.
And did you introduce it as its own line item?
Exactly.
Which is different than how it used to be, right?
Exactly, right? It was a patchwork of private and public funding, and we're hoping that this year's budget, it does have a general program, which is also in the next year's budget is going to allow us to come back and look at, point to places like Fitchburg and Gardner and say, hey, we need to sustain and expand this model because it's working.
Exactly.
So Innovation Pathways is a really exciting area that there's great work going on. The second is the Career Technical Initiative. Can you talk about just what that is and what we hope that looks like in a couple of years?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's about $6 million at this point that's going into CTI, right?
Yes.
So the Career Technical Initiative is really partnering with our Voc Tech schools here in the region to provide really a three three-session, I don't know the best word for it.
Three-shift model.
A three-shift
right?
model where people in the community can utilize the Voc Tech schools who have put forth a specific curriculum around, right now it's a lot focused on the trades. It's looking to be expanded. And these training, career technical initiative model really is you get access to training at one of our Voc Tech schools. In one of these, there's a morning shift, there's a middle of the day shift, and an evening shift. So it really offers more opportunity for folks who have different varying schedules to get access to these training programs. The model is designed so that once you are enrolled, you also are co-enrolled at the Career Center. So when you become a CTI provider at a Voc Tech school, your local career center is tied into that process.
Yeah.
So you are not only getting the training, high quality training at one of our Voc Tech schools, but then you are also immediately connected into the MassHire system. So as you are going through that training program, you have access to additional supports through a career counselor. The role of the MassHire component of CTI is to make sure that there is alignment with employers. So you come out of that training, and we've worked in partnership with the Voc Tech school, the career center, our employers, transition right into a job. So it's not, I'm getting this training, and then what? What do I do now? Do I start looking for a job? What do I do?
Seamless,
I have to update my resume?
Yeah.
Seamless.
Warm
MassHire
handoff,
is
as we
taking care
call
of
it.
all that while you're going through the training. You get out of that training, your resume's done. You may have needed some interviewing prep, those types of things. We know the employers that are hiring. Boom, right into one of our employers in the region.
And I think it's so exciting because it really solves a problem that is here. And I mentioned it earlier, but we want every kid in this region who wants to access a skilled trade or work-based learning to be able to access it.
Absolutely.
And I think right now that's not the case, right? The capacity for those training programs just doesn't exist.
Exactly.
And for instance, we've got one of the best technical high schools in the country. And I'm so proud of Monty Tech. And if you go in and I've toured Assabet, I've toured Monty Tech, they have incredible equipment, incredible instructors. But to be able to use that instead of for 4 or 6 hours a day, and rather 12 or 14 hours a day is incredible. And they get 700 applicants every year for 350 seats. So unfortunately, just because of capacity issues, they don't have a seat for everybody.
This helps to expand that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're going to get a second shift and access for kids who can't go to Monty Tech during the day. And then adult retraining at night, which is, I believe it's got the potential to be transformational for workforce development.
Here's the beautiful thing about CTI. So in our region, we currently are operating that CTI model with Monty Tech, Neshoba Tech, and Minuteman Tech. Now, Neshoba Tech and Minuteman Tech aren't necessarily in the North Central region. Yeah. But any Voc Tech school
kids from Lancaster go to Minuteman Tech.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So that's why we help support that.
Tell me how that works. I don't know. But yeah.
I know. So, but the beautiful thing about the CTI component is that you can go to any of the programs across the Commonwealth. It's not you have to go because you live in Leominster, you have to go to Monty Tech.
Yeah.
This program expands those opportunities. If there's a particular program in a different region and you have the opportunity to go there, as long as the CTI programming is being provided, you potentially as a citizen can go wherever you want to go. There's additional opportunities, and because it's tied into the MassHire system, wherever you go, you're still going to get that same post-training, pre-employment supports through MassHire.
So we talked a little bit about it before we went on air, but we're really in a time right now because of American Rescue Plan funds, the supplemental budget that the Commonwealth is going to take up this summer. We're really in a historic period for investment in workforce training programs. As we make these investments, where do we need to double down? What are the models that work? Where would you like to see? So Governor Baker yesterday, as we were discussing, announced $240 million in workforce development investment. How would you like to see that money spent?
I think, COVID was unprecedented, right?
Yeah.
Unprecedented. And we now have an unemployment system that has been, for the last year and a half, overwhelmed with folks who unfortunately have had to utilize those services to receive unemployment funding, right? Many of those occupations that were severely hit by COVID are not rebounding like some of the others that we see. And we have a majority of folks who are in unemployment who potentially may not be able to go back into the occupation that they had prior to COVID. What I think we need to see a significant investment in workforce retraining.
Yeah.
We need to see a significant investment in additional what we call workforce training funds, which provide us that grant money to develop additional training programs with our local community colleges.
Yeah.
We need to certainly, and I love it that the governor put it in there for English as a second language. Funding to improve and expand upon the opportunity to provide citizens, in particular live in our region, who English is a second language, new Americans, all of the funding there, and certainly the opportunity to upskill what we call incumbent workers as well. So workers who are currently in the workforce but don't necessarily get the additional training to potentially build upon their career, offer some opportunity there for those folks as well. So, because when you work in a particular job, you get that upskilled training, you move into a management position. Not only does that benefit you as an individual, your family, your community, it opens the door for somebody who can come into the vacancy, so to speak, that you are now moving up into. So it creates a true career ladder. So it was wonderful to read that yesterday, that the governor is heavily committed to our workforce development system. It's unprecedented.
Right.
In the years I've been doing this, I've never seen this amount of opportunity to really expand the system.
And I believe these are the best investments we can make, right? I mean, it's economic opportunity, it's economic growth. It's going to hopefully shrink our safety net programs, which we should all want to do, right? Sure. And it's very exciting. And the more I talk to different people, and I don't care what problem we're talking about, right? I was on a call yesterday and there's an emergency department boarding crisis for kids in the Commonwealth. Right. And it's terrible and it's heart-wrenching. And the state is making investments to try to fix it, right? There are 300 inpatient psychiatric beds that are going to come online in the next fiscal year. But the problem is, how do we staff it, right? And we can't solve any of these problems if we're not taking a deliberate look at building a workforce pipeline to address healthcare shortages, right?
I mean, we have an older population. We have people, baby boomers who are, the amount of healthcare related occupations that are needed in our region and across the state is a significant amount of opportunity for folks who are interested in going into healthcare.
And that was my question to the board, or the experts yesterday. Where is the shortage most acute? And they said everywhere. We need psychiatrists, psychologists, nurse practitioners, caregivers, social
CNAs,
workers,
PCAs,
across
home
the
health
board.
aides,
Right.
Substance use mental health counselors. We recently, in this region, we are just introducing we received a healthcare hub grant, roughly $375,000 specifically targeting our healthcare industry here in the region. And we're doing it with 5 different training programs. We've partnered with Haywood Hospital in Mount Wachusett on CNA acute care for acute care nursing. We've partnered with Leominster Clinton Hospital and Mount Wachusett, again with CNA. We're working with Open Sky, which is a large human service agency who's developed a consortium of all of our human service agencies in the region around substance use and mental health training. So we know that there is huge potential for workforce development in the healthcare industry, and it really is a community need.
Absolutely.
So the health of our community is dependent on making sure that we're training a workforce to serve everywhere from mental health related diagnoses to hospital related care, in-home care. Telemed is a big thing now. So a lot of folks,
and it's here to stay.
It's here to stay, right? So folks who need those services in their homes. And making sure that we provide a quality workforce there. So huge opportunity and a huge need.
So we've talked a lot about the opportunities, and I think it's really, again, we're in agreement. This is an exciting time to be in the workforce development space. Can you talk about some of the historic challenges and the challenges that you and the board face right now? What are those barriers that prevent people from accessing these opportunities to be successful in a training program, and how can we get at that?
I think, historically, some of the barriers centered around technology. You have folks who, in particular in the North Central region, you have folks who live in rural communities. They, A, don't know the services exist, and B, don't necessarily, historically you had to come in to a career center or do all those things. We've introduced advanced tech where we can do everything via Zoom. We can meet with folks in their homes. Counselors can connect with folks in a variety of different ways. So one, access to services. Two, I think historically the workforce development system, in particular the boards and the career centers, didn't do a good enough job with what I call marketing.
Yeah.
Getting out there and actually letting people know in a variety of different formats that there are these services available, that they're free, and that you make it easy for folks to access them. I think another challenge, and we've done a better job with this, we need to make sure that we're aligning ourselves with our sister agencies, Mass Rehab Commission, Department of Transitional Assistance, Mass Commission for the Blind, all of the different other agencies who...
This is something we say in our office all the time, right? We got all these people trying to row in the same direction, but they're blind to everybody else.
Speeds.
Yeah,
one's
exactly.
up, one's down, one's going this way, one's going that way. Exactly. So,
Yeah.
Making sure that we have what we call memorandums of understanding, that we are well aligned at our local level with all of the different programs that are out there. Not only well aligned, so we're not duplicating cost, that we're sharing, there's a referral system for someone who would be best served by a particular agency. And beyond the state system, the Mass Rehab and the DTA and the MCB and unemployment and all that, are community social service agencies that work on food insecurity, that work on housing, that work on child care. One of the biggest challenges right now for a lot of our workforce, in particular females who want to get back into the workforce, childcare.
And isn't that the biggest population, right? Single mothers are excluded from the workforce more than any other group?
Roughly half. I don't have the specific data as of today, but we closely monitor what we call initial claims and then continued claims through the unemployment system, right? And I want to say almost half of continued claims right now are female.
Yeah.
In our region. Why? And I attribute it to certainly some of the occupations that haven't bounced back, but childcare, huge. So workforce development doesn't just, for what we do at MassHire, doesn't just center around those training programs and help someone find a job. But I firmly believe you need to make sure that you can assist somebody or have relationships with all of those other social programs.
Yep.
So that it's a holistic approach to getting somebody to that career, getting somebody to that secure life that they can build here in the region. I mean, right? Isn't that what it's about?
Absolutely.
Making sure you move to North Central, you have opportunity for career advancement, you have support around some of your issues related if you need it for housing.
There's child care and good schools for your
good school system. The school system, provides an opportunity for all learners, depending on whether you're going on the 4-year, whether you're going to enter into the workforce.
Yep.
So, from a board vision, our goal is to make sure that we are in communication and aligning all of those programs. Because, at the end of the day, I live in this region. My kids are in the school system. I have friends and family. I want to see our communities a healthy, vibrant place. I want people to move here.
Yep.
And know that they can come here and get a great job or get access to training and have a great education experience in whatever that looks like for you. So.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I had a great time.
It was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and there's a lot of work in front of us to do. So
Absolutely.
Thanks
Senator.
for everything you do for the region, and have you back on soon. I want to get up to Gardner and get on your show. That's when I know I'll really have made it.
I'll talk to Kevin. I'll get you up there, and hopefully at the end of July we'll do something fun up in Gardner.
Awesome. Good stuff. Have a great weekend.
Hey, thank you.